stock earnings and
Like gap accounting.
favorite pastime.
So let me just say, earnings
liquidity
by
of Wall Street.
way,
It's
is why do they
2.5x
do it? Because their compensation goes up.
Wall Street's wrong again.
Welcome to the Altimetry Authority Show. It's a very special episode this time around because I am not joined by my partner in the business, Rob Spivey, our Director of Research. He couldn't make it in, but he is being substituted by the great Colonel Jon Shaffner, who I met years ago when I was teaching at Marine Corps War College, and then met again when he invited me into the Pentagon to talk about all kinds of things. And a lot of it is capital times capital, meaning capital with an O and capital with an A. What's happening in the government and the military, which Jon is an expert in, and combined with what we see in finance, and having a pretty interesting conversation of capital and that different spelling. So, Jon, thanks for joining us on the Altimetry Authority Show.
Great to be here.
Standing in for Rob Spivey, who I know you spent a lot of time talking with about these issues also. So I'll do my best to cover what Rob would normally cover. Recently in the Middle East, things have been settling down. There's been some accords. There may be some peace. And yet the Saudis are buying the latest F-35s from the U.S. in a large multi-billion-dollar amount. Comments and thoughts on what's going on there?
Yeah, I think the Saudis had a front row seat to the effectiveness of the F-35. Recently with the unpleasantness between Israel and Iran. So that's a great way to sell a good piece of kit.
That was the aircraft show that they saw live.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Not the Dubai Air Show, which is going on right now, which the F-35 is at, but the demonstration that took place both with the Israeli F-35s and then ours.
And it's just that the U.S. technology, right, is still so far ahead of the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Right. There's no one else that makes a jet like the U.S. makes.
There's people that say they do, but have they demonstrated?
Well, the Chinese J,
J10, J11,
yes, the J series, which is their equivalent to F series.
The lookalikes, right?
Yeah.
Call them lookalikes. But they have never been demonstrated. There's, they're not shipping those over to Russia. Russia probably wouldn't want to fly them. The planes look like F-35s, but they're not, right? There's a lot that goes in on F-35. I have friends that build the specialized components that make the F-35 special. And they have companies that you won't see listed, privately held companies, and they're doing very well. And there's a reason why that technology is their technology, right?
So whether it's the Saudis buying the F-35s or Qatar donating jets to the U.S., around the Middle East, you see a lot more, I'll say, Western friendliness and a gathering around not putting up with Iran's.
Yeah.
I mean, am I wrong to say that Iran is really responsible for a lot of the problems out there, whether it's Iran funding Hamas, Iran funding Hezbollah, Iran funding the Houthis in Yemen? Most of these groups wouldn't be able to do what they're doing or anywhere that level over the last decade were not for Iran's funding from the world buying Iran's oil. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, 100%. The Iranian IRGC, their Republican Guard Corps, which is behind a lot of these spinoffs and splinter groups, and they're really pushing a lot of the technology to them. I mean, where is the Houthi going to build a cruise missile, right? It's not in his his garage. We'll call it a garage. The pretty advanced technology that comes directly from Iran to them. We've, disrupted those supply chains. We've disrupted a lot of their capabilities. You saw the other day, Iran's actually ramped up its own activities in the area. They took a petro ship.
It took a UAE oil ship, right? Yes.
Yeah. So that was
oil or gas. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's just one of those things where they don't have the Houthis as tight anymore or as well funded or capable, and there may not be as many of them left.
So they have to do it themselves.
Yeah.
Huh.
So they don't have that one step away. Hey, they're not us; it's them.
But U.S. military technology is making a big, across the board.
Yeah.
Israel's talked about having great technology, but they're still buying a lot of stuff from the United States.
Well, their production, they have great things.
Yes.
There's a lot of technologies and pieces of U.S. components that originated with Israeli ideas. But they don't have the capital or the production capacity or, precision production capacity to build it at scale. So it has to come over here, right? So I think that's all of the recent military actions, all the hot war stuff, has shown that U.S. tech is much better than anything else because it's blowing up all the other stuff.
Because the propaganda from China is not saying that,
Yeah.
right? The propaganda coming out on TikTok and other places is that China can build more ships and China can do this and China's technology is on par
Yeah.
with the U.S., well, in general, let alone militarily.
Yeah.
In your opinion, is that true?
No.
From
no.
planes
Huh.
to ships to whatever.
It reminds me of this young guy I play hockey with, right? He talks about at the end of every game how I was gonna take that guy out. I can take that guy out. And then I play with a bunch of cops, law enforcement, military folks, and like, but you didn't. Like you can say you can do a lot of things, but until you do it, like the American technology has, there's really no real indicator that there's any truth behind that.
I grew up in Maine, and one of the joys of my life was when my son said to me out of the blue, he goes, "I'd like a pair of hockey skates." And I was like, "Really?" Because I don't push,
Yeah.
right? I like a pair of hockey skates, so I do like the ice
Yeah.
side of things. Speaking of ice and the winter coming, if that wasn't a good segue, Russia, I mean, Putin certainly thought he was going to roll over Ukraine, right? A lot of people thought, how could Ukraine with let me say monetarily, with a federal budget of $50 billion, stand up against Russia with the federal budget of $350 billion and nukes and military they've been building for, throughout the Soviet era and into the Russian Federation. How has U.S. military technology played into that?
Well, I think it's from the beginning of that conflict. You saw the big Russian mass on the borders, and everybody was nervous, and you saw the armor and the aviation, all that stuff, and then they crossed the border, and all of a sudden those assets started blowing up, right? And that was mostly made in America kit, whether it be drones or different guided missiles, whether they be anti-air or anti-ground. Just about all the munitions that they used were gifts from us to stop that invasion. Especially
Really?
the way the Russians lined it up. They didn't
Gifts from the U.S. to NATO to Ukraine, or directly from the U.S. to or both?
both.
All right,
All the above.
but essentially, it's coming from U.S. aerospace and defense technology and companies and whatever, and it's all the big ones you think of.
Yeah.
Lockheed Martin, GD.
Yeah. In the beginning, especially, it was either some technology you want to try out, and there's some of that over there, or just kind of aging stockpiles. We had enough, and we could just give them a Javelin. Javelin's a great piece of kit against the T-72, and turns out it works really well. So there's
the Javelin is a great kit against a T-72 tank.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and much cheaper.
Oh, yeah, way cheaper.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very economical. You really look at it. We try to look at it as a dollar for dollar comparison. Now, we don't necessarily win in the counter drone space currently. Definitely moving in that direction quickly. Some of the stuff we saw, recently, some of the technology we saw that, there's no very low cost per shot if it's a directed energy or something like that. But yeah, so I think it was a really strong demonstration of American capability versus what seemed to be a Goliath, getting taken down by the David. It really worked that way for Ukraine, and it continues to.
Yes, continue, meaning it hasn't settled yet,
Right.
but it does seem like a lot of the battle is being taken to Russia's homeland in a way that can't be looked upon favorably by the Russian people or Putin's own government.
Yeah, I think Putin was running from a drone just a couple weeks ago. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a barrage into just on the outskirts of Moscow. He was quite concerned about it.
Let me bring it back to China with a different war that I have some very good friends who that say we're in, and it's an AI war, and that the AI war is going to be won. To win the AI war, not going to be won by, but to win the AI war, you need massive amounts of electricity, right? And you'll see where I tie this back as a conversation that we had that you had taught me something new. A lot has been said about China having small nuclear reactors or whatever, some cool technology that they're building there. And you reminded me, you said, well, the U.S. has had the best small nuclear reactors for 3 decades. And I was like, where? And so where?
Yeah. All over the Navy, right? I mean, the American nuclear powered ships, outnumber the rest of the world, I believe, combined, with our ability to
more than the rest of the world combined.
All right.
I like say when people don't realize the hegemony of the United States, you have to look at things and saying it's not number one or number two. It's does the U.S. have a level of power that exceeds all of the rest of the world combined, not just China or Russia or whatever else? And in this space, the U.S. has 88 small nuclear reactors powering subs and ships and aircraft carriers right now, without incident, still operating today over, is it 30 years?
At least.
So, so all the U.S. has to do commercially, because the military has lent itself to providing lots of fantastic things for technology into, talk about the internet, right? And talk about Six Sigma and TQM. That all came from training with an industry that came out of, World War II economic reforms that we helped our enemies with, right? We helped Germany and Japan with it. So a lot of technology, amazing, right, that I keep stumbling across all the time coming out of the U.S. military. One of is all they have to turn on the right to have nuclear, and suddenly the U.S. will have virtually unlimited electricity. Now, it's going to be tight for 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years, because you can't turn on a nuclear facility in 5 years. I mean, in 3 years or 4 years or 2 years. But around 5 years, if the U.S. and this administration allows it, the U.S. should have more than ample electricity to win the AI war.
Yeah, totally true. Yeah, and I mean, it's indicative of innovation. Not nuclear, different types of nuclear. You have fission, fusion. There's definitely advances going on in that place. Nuclear batteries. I was talking to a chief scientist at NASA that put together the Curiosity rover. Right, it's run off a nuclear battery. It's supposed to last 6 months. Turns out, I think it could probably still be running if the wheel didn't fall off. Different problem, and not good years. But it was we have the capability to do these things, and it was very expensive to send to space.
Yes,
but what he said was that supply chain is untapped. It's not really limited like it's said that it is. Right. So
it can be turned commercial.
Right. Like you mentioned, if there is a demand there, the price will go down. Right.
Yes.
If you're building 2 a year, the price is going to be very high. If you're building 200,000 a year, the price is going to be much lower.
Yes.
And the economy of scale, would transition, very quickly into that being a potentially very, cheap way to get fuel.
Yeah, it was when you showed me that and said the U.S. has been an expert in small nuclear power. It was amazing. We produced some research with Colonel's help and under Altimetry at newenergyboom.com. Newenergyboom.com. You'll see one of our favorite stock ideas that's in the nuclear space, but you also hear about this massive trend in the need for electricity, pre-grid electricity in particular, meaning that's going straight to the companies that need it, whether it's AI or just for the U.S. industrial renaissance that the U.S. is experiencing. So check out newenergyboom.com if you want to see that stock pick, and if you want to see that latest research, it's there for you to look at. Colonel, any last words?
No, I mean, I think there's a trend across the world where we had gone away from nuclear globally. I think everybody's awakening to the limitations of fossil fuels and kind of the strategic risk and the need for redundancy. And as crazy as it sounds to us sitting right here, but if you look at the modern technology and the safety involved with it, it's really a way that I think we're going to see a lot more of in the near future.
Very good. Thank you for joining us on the Altimetry Authority Show, Colonel Shaffner. Thank you so much for being with us, as always, and for working with us on all this research. No, it's really fantastic. Rob Spivey will be back on the next episode with me. But until then, if you want to check out Rob at that research at newenergyboom.com, Rob has got a great distilling of what's been going on. So thanks, everyone.